Hi, I'm Solomon. Clean hydrogen and hydrogen carriers such as ammonia are essential for decarbonizing fertilizer, steel production, and other industrial processes, and for creating emissions-free fuels for ships, airplanes, and more. Producing hydrogen from water using clean electricity can create a way to profitably build more renewable generation in undertapped Great Plains states and export it around the world. To maximize the potential for a U.S. hydrogen industry, Congress should provide tax credits to drive a rapid scale-up in electrolyzer manufacturing and lower the costs of clean hydrogen production. We also need federal leadership to coordinate infrastructure planning and to create early markets for hydrogen products through federal agency and military purchasing, demonstration projects, and more. With federal coordination, infrastructure can be equitably sited and new jobs can be targeted to benefit communities that have historically suffered from racist siting of dirty factories and power plants. Those new jobs are estimated to exceed 3 million by 2050, replacing fossil fuel employment 3 times over.
Hi, I'm Annie Petsonk. Our 5-point plan for putting aviation on the flight path to carbon neutrality can put people to work building cleaner aircraft, retrofitting today's aircraft to use new low and zero carbon fuels, and put people to work growing and generating those fuels. Any new bailout money for airlines should be conditioned on these 5 points. First, a cap on the emissions of the aviation sector through legislation or regulation. Second, renewed diplomacy to be sure that other major aviation nations meet these same caps. Third, accelerating the development and deployment of sustainable aviation fuels. Fourth, standards to improve the emissions performance of engines. EPA has the tools to do this through the Clean Air Act. And finally, research and development to bring this all together and help build the new aircraft of the future. Thank you.
Hi there, this is Daniel Sanchez with the University of California, Berkeley. Forests in the Western United States face increasing risk from catastrophic wildfire, leading to loss of secure carbon sinks, as well as life and property. We envision a world where robust markets for bioenergy, mass timber, and other innovative forest products can enable the cost-effective restoration of Western forests, thereby reducing wildfire risk. We propose federal procurement of biopower and mass timber through federal power authorities, General Services Administration, or Defense Logistics Agency, continued enhancements to the budgeting and collaborative authorities of the U.S. Forest Service, as well as an increase to research and development funding, deployment grants, and loan programs at the U.S. Department of Agriculture and U.S. Department of Energy to achieve this vision.
Hello, I want to introduce you to the amazing team that worked on the regenerative agriculture paper.
Regenerative agriculture is key to Biden's plan of decarbonizing the food and agriculture sector and leveraging our agriculture to remove carbon dioxide and reduce nitrogen pollution.
Regenerative agriculture practices include using cover crops, reducing tillage, rotating crops, spreading compost, or using intensive grazing.
While regenerative farmers save money, farmers still need incentives and help with adoption. Our recommendations are to reform federal crop insurance to encourage the building of soil health, offer preferential loans for producers demonstrating risk mitigation through improved soil health outcomes.
Increase funding for the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, including the Soil Health Division. Establish an outcomes-verified soil health program.
Help increase the market for cover crop products. Increase funding for Conservation Title Working Lands programs. And importantly, recognize Indigenous conservation practices.
Hello, the Biden Energy Plan states that the U.S. must reduce emissions on global shipping and aviation and double down on the liquid fuels of the future.
Despite breakthroughs in electric battery technology for passenger vehicles, long-haul trucks, heavy machinery, marine transportation, and aviation still rely primarily on fossil fuels, and replacement turnover can take decades. Algae-derived products can create fuels and other goods that are tunable to a wide variety of applications, including drop-in fuels such as biodiesel and jet fuel, as well as plastics, fertilizers, and other co-products, while substantially improving the emissions footprint. Our recommendations are:
create an algae incentive program, AIP, similar to the California Solar Initiatives, to use the economies of scale to bring down prices. Increase 45Q carbon capture and storage, CCS tax credit. Incentivize federal procurement in bio-based products and access the USDA loan, business and industry loan guarantee program. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Varun Sivaram. In this paper, I write about launching a national energy innovation mission. Look, in a time of divided government, innovation is probably the one climate priority that we can get legislative approval and bipartisan support behind. In a new book, Energizing America, I, along with my co-authors Colin Cunliffe, David Hart, Julio Friedman, and David Sandalo, urge the U.S. federal government to triple federal research, development, and demonstration funding to $25 billion by 2025. We lay out 10 technology pillars in this paper and in our book, along with strategic principles for the government and a 100-day action plan for the Biden administration to convene a White House task force and coordinate the first budget that will raise budgets by 30% in FY22. This is the best way for the U.S. to maximize its competitive edge in clean energy industries of the future and to combat climate change with the technologies we're going to need. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Jetta Wong. In June, the International Energy Agency reported that 6 of the 46 technologies needed to address climate change are on track. The United States' strong position at the front end of the innovation cycle gives it the ability to capture a substantial share of the trillions of dollars that will flow into the development of these new technologies. Yet, the United States struggles to move innovative energy technologies from discovery to scale. The Biden-Harris administration should move quickly to support the creation of a nonprofit Department of Energy foundation. The foundation will have the goal to accelerate the commercialization of new energy technologies through strategic public-private collaborations. It draws on precedents set by a diverse array of congressionally authorized foundations established over the last 50 years. These independent foundations help create partnerships and leverage private sector follow-on funding to address broad societal challenges. A bipartisan, bicameral provision to establish this foundation passed the House in this fall's energy package and now awaits Senate action.
President-elect Biden should fund the National Climate Bank as part of his stimulus proposal. The nonprofit, also known as the Clean Energy Accelerator, will use the Green Bank model to create millions of jobs, generate 3 times private sector leverage, and invest 40% of funds in disadvantaged communities. It will invest in clean energy infrastructure projects of all kinds, working with state and local green banks and communities across the U.S. Green banks have already driven $5 billion of investment, proving the model works. The bill to fund the nonprofit accelerator was introduced by Senators Markey and Van Hollen with co-sponsorship by Vice President-elect Harris. Representative Dingell's House bill passed the House twice in 2020. This is supported by all major environmental groups and many industry associations. Nearly 100 organizations signed a letter of support, and 7 in 10 voters support the policy. Creation of a national green bank was also proposed by Governor Inslee, Senator Warren, and Mayor Buttigieg as presidential candidates. This is a practical implementation tool to create millions of jobs, support struggling communities and businesses, and spark a rapid and just transition.
Hi, I'm Levi Patterson. Clean energy technologies face a number of unique barriers to commercialization, including high upfront capital costs, long development times, fragmented regulatory policy, and the need to displace incumbent technologies. Currently, the biggest investment in technology transfer at DOE is through the Office of Technology Transitions. DOE should expand the mission of and increase funding for OTT to unlock significant economic growth and create employment opportunities by investing in our entrepreneurs and the startups they create. DOE should also direct more funding to entrepreneurs that come from underrepresented backgrounds. Secondly, the DOE should create a new program to invest in regional clean energy innovation ecosystems. From 2005 to 2017, 5 metro areas accounted for more than 90% of the nation's innovation sector growth, while about 90% of metro areas lost jobs in innovation, leading to growing wealth inequality, deepening racial and socioeconomic inequity, and trapping parts of the nation in patterns of underdevelopment. We can reverse these trends by empowering our communities to solve our nation's most challenging clean energy problems. Legislation to do just that was introduced by Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson and passed the House of Representatives in September of this year. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Claire Wu. Our paper is about distributed energy resources and demand response technologies, which include solar PV, energy storage, EV charging, smart loads, etc. These technologies are a key part of the clean energy transition. But they often require large upfront investment, which is a barrier to low-income communities. So our first recommendation is to ensure broad and equitable access by reducing the cost of capital. One model is to use the National Climate Bank, a nonprofit financial institution, to fund regional projects in frontline communities. Our second recommendation is to modernize wholesale markets to ensure that DERs and DR have fair market access and compensation. It will also be hugely beneficial to expand wholesale market access to all areas of the country. Our third recommendation is to create national standards and requirements for DER interconnection and permitting, which will avoid delays and reduce costs for all projects. Thank you.
Nuclear is currently the largest source of clean energy in the US, but it is also the technology with the most barriers to commercialization and deployment. Advancements in nuclear technology address waste, cost, and safety, but will need policy support to ensure they are deployed in an equitable and sustainable way. To make nuclear cheap and competitive, we will need a whole-of-government approach that establishes staff positions across the administration, reestablishes the U.S. government as the first funder and customer of domestic advanced nuclear technologies, and modernizes the licensing process. We'll also need to recognize nuclear as clean energy and regain global leadership in exports through a significant investment in innovation, valuing the low-carbon contributions of nuclear in energy market pricing, and including advanced nuclear as part of a Green Marshall Plan for climate. Finally, we should establish a social science agenda for nuclear with the goal of achieving more equitable adoption and to secure environmental justice. A good place to start is by developing a coal to nuclear repowering program and implementing a review of the National Fuel Cycle Strategy with a focus on equity.
Transit innovation has been growing as a U.S. policy concern due to competitive pressures from ride-hailing firms, strained local finances, and emphasis on reducing both emissions and racial inequality in our transportation system. Investing in transit innovation has long been a federal responsibility, but we currently spend only about $30 million annually on these programs versus nearly $15 billion for transit rolling stock and other capital programs. Our recommendations focus on three key ideas, which will increase transit's competitiveness, support decarbonization, create good-paying American jobs, and deliver more equitable mobility outcomes. Number 1, increase authorized funding for Section 5312, which covers transit research and innovation programming, to $100 million annually. Number 2, create incentives in other U.S. DOT innovation programs to incorporate transit through selection criteria. Number 3, as we currently don't have one, support the creation of a domestic railcar manufacturer by helping local transit agencies pool resources to fund the creation of one.
Hi, my name is Abigail Ruditsky, and I'm here to talk about direct air capture, or DAC. DAC technology will be essential to achieve the Biden climate goal of net zero emissions by 2050 and for the entire world to limit warming to 1.5 to 2 degrees C. The United States can be the global leader in the development, manufacturing, and deployment of DAC technologies, which can create a whole new U.S. industry with the potential for more than 1.35 million high-quality, good-paying jobs. Plus, the benefits of a robust DAC-enabled circular carbon economy can be more equitably distributed, while mitigating the negative impacts of the fossil economy on frontline communities. To build a U.S. DAC industry, we recommend the Biden administration provide direct financial support for and enable financing for first-of-a-kind DAC projects, establish a coordinated cross-agency federal RD&D carbon removal and storage strategy, and leverage federal procurement and standards to create markets for DAC services and products. My co-author, Nicholas Eisenberger, will join you for the panel.
Tapping the energy and flexibility of distributed resources to meet our climate and job creation goals requires access to data held by utilities. The Obama-Biden administration helped us launch Green Button Connect My Data as a data sharing industry standard. But our non-standard implementation has become another barrier to data access and to innovation. It limits customer choice and the value of distributed resources themselves. The market response is creating new data security problems and cutting utilities out of the data flow. A unified national system for secure data sharing, like the ATM system in banking, would unleash private sector innovation and benefit consumers and utilities alike. The House-passed e-access bill provides a vehicle to reboot the national effort. Failing legislation, recovery funds could be made contingent upon state or utility participation in a solution.